If you're old enough, as I am, you might remember Sean Duffy as a cast member of MTV's The Real World Boston. But these days, you more likely know him as the congressman who's trying to engage his young constituents by, well, take a look.
All right, I'm on the way to a town hall. But first, let me take a selfie.
Congressman Duffy joins me now. I got to tell you, Congressman, I have a team that is very hard to impress, and one of my producers popped up from her desk to say, did you watch this? Because it is actually funny. So congratulations. This is a tough crowd. What's the inspiration behind the video?
We know so often in Washington, D.C., we try to get young Americans to engage in policy conversations. I thought a better way was to actually engage in some of their conversations in a medium that they use. And there's a selfie craze going on right now, and I had taken a number of different selfies with a lot of different leaders that make decisions that impact their lives. And I thought it'd be cool to make a video that was a takeoff of this popular selfie song. So, and listen, it was successful. I mean, I had a ton of young people engage and reach out and actually start a little conversation, which was the intended purpose.
And Congressman, I applaud your effort, because I think that we would be better if more members of Congress were trying to engage with young Americans. And yet, you and I know that tactics are just the beginning. You also have to have a message. So what is your message to your young constituents?
I mean, listen, this isn't the end-all, be-all. You actually got to engage people in policy conversations. And my message is, we have to grow the economy. We have to have opportunity for people who graduate from high school, from tech school, and from universities to get out and actually get a job.
Right. And even if that economic message resonates with members of this generation, there is a big question for the Republican Party, which is it's a generation that's on the other side of the culture wars, right? A generation that overwhelmingly supports marriage equality, a large percentage of which supports the legalization of marijuana. Do you think the party needs to evolve on culture questions in order to really engage with this generation?
Well, I think if you look at this generation, Alicia, what you find is you can't put them into a box. They're not Republicans or Democrats. They're really independent, and they look at what issues resonate with them right now in their lives. And that's why I think the economic message that we offer them is why we've seen a historic number of them move away from the president and come on over towards us. I mean, another big issue, Alicia, is look at education. I mean, we understand that the best pathway out of poverty and into the middle class and beyond is a good education. And I see out here in Washington, you have a lot of liberal elites that send their kids to private school, but we have, you know, some of our poorer communities around America where kids want a good education and they have failing schools. Democrats aren't willing to join us and offer choice in education so kids can get to a better school, which will mean they'll get a better job and have a better life. I think those are big issues that I think matter for the country across the whole and matter to this generation.
You know, Congressman, I have to ask, given your brush with reality television, which is more real, The Real World or Washington, D.C.?
Well, I got to tell you, The Real World on MTV was a TV show. What happens here has a real impact on American lives. And so I look at what work we do here and how we can have a positive change on how people interact and how they earn a living. This is far more real in the House of Representatives in Washington.
All right, let's talk about something very real. Last week, we saw another mass shooting happening on a college campus. I know that this is an issue. It's of critical importance to my generation, and I think there are a few conversations that are being had in tandem, right? There's a conversation about gun violence. There's a conversation about mental health. There's a conversation that has sprung up about male privilege. Which conversation do you think we need to be having, Congressman?
Well, I think we have to have a couple conversations. One, I think we have to work on our mental health laws. We have Tim Murphy in the House here. He's a psychologist who has come out with a bill that would give more resources to train EMTs and police officers to recognize mental illness, to break down some of the HIPAA laws so families can share more information, and actually giving grant money to counties so we can get people who need the help into the treatment centers early on, because mental illness is a huge problem. That's number one. But Alicia, I think we have to look at a culture that values life, in all life. And if you have a culture that values life, I think you'll see less of these incidences. But also, you got to have good families. I mean, I'm a father of 7. My wife and I just had our 7th child. We have 5 daughters. It's making sure that we have families that are raising good kids, good daughters and good sons, to respect each other.
But Congressman, I don't think anyone would argue with the idea of individual responsibility, but there are also big institutions at play. The only institution I didn't hear you talk about, the gun lobby. I mean, do we need to be having a conversation about gun violence as well?
Well, listen, I'm one who supports the Second Amendment and our Constitution. I look at saying, if you have people who have mental illness, they'll go to any lengths to do harm to others. And I think if you take away, look at Chicago, for instance. They have very strict gun laws, and you have gun violence that's rampant in that city. It hasn't done anything to snuff out gun violence. It's taken law-abiding citizens and prohibited them from buying firearms, but the criminals, they'll always get them. But I think you look at what happened out in California. We got to look at mental illness in a way that really addresses it and moves it forward, where we have treatment options available that make these kind of situations extinct.
Congressman Duffy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Alicia.
Stay with us because